Clouds of smoke rise from the parched national forests of 3 states, Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico. Raging out of control, fires have already transformed thousands of acres into blackened stubble. In the Black Range timberlands of New Mexico alone, the loss is 30,000 acres in 6 days, with thousands more threatened. An army of firefighters, 1,200 strong, wages a hot, dirty, and dangerous battle against the advancing line of flame. Bulldozers join the fight, but in some areas a wind-fanned blaze jumps barricades and sweeps onward. Aided by months of drought, the worst forest fires the Southwest has known in years take a terrible toll of a precious national resource. To New York's Fed 12.
The telephone operator's tradition of staying on the job in times of disaster is well known. It's a responsibility they willingly accept and take pride in. Whether the call be emergency or routine, the operator performs the service.
Residents of Forks, Washington, flee with their belongings as a roaring forest fire sweeps across the drought-parched Northwest, turning day into night under a pall of smoke. The blaze fanned by a 40-mile-an-hour wind brings 500 men and all available firefighting equipment to the scene to save the small logging community. Flames from the burning forest turn the whole area into an inferno as they steadily lick their way toward the town. fight the desperate battle in the town, 25 homes and 2 sawmills are reduced to ashes. Although much of the town is leveled and property damage runs high, prompt action evacuates all the women and children, leaving the firefighters to control one of the worst forest fires in the region's history. Blackened ruins tell the story. Their Majesties King Paul and Queen Frederick
detect and extinguish fires. For instance, lightning alone causes as many as 20,000 forest fires a year. But patrol jeeps can spot and get to these fires fast, before they spread, thereby saving millions of dollars a year. They can reach places otherwise accessible only on foot or by horse.
For example, once the green forest is set ablaze, everything is swept before its flaming fury. Birds and animals, even man, if his relentless fingers, are consumed in its superheated intensity. No longer then will the waters be cool and clean, because soil erosion and water...
Nature's pipelines, the watersheds, will have to be reforested wherever they have been stripped of their production.
Cigarette, one spark from a campfire. That's all it takes. And it will be 50 years before trees stand as high as these once did. 50 years for a single moment of carelessness. If people would only stop and think.
Down, the humidity falls. Too dangerous for men in the woods. Don't take a chance. Pull them out. Lock up shop. Close off the woods. Danger. Fire weather. Radio and television carry the message to every home.
Reports that low humidities and high temperatures have pushed the fire danger to the critical point.
Public education, cooperation, awareness of the problem. Train fire watchers on 24-hour alert. Close cooperation between private, state, and federal foresters. Total readiness to detect and suppress fire. But nature doesn't always cooperate. Early detection and rapid control of forest fires reduce the hazard and limit the loss. Today's trees destroyed. Tomorrow's trees in jeopardy. Fire is the greatest of all crimes in the forest. But while the forest has enemies,
It also has friends. Among the friends are the research foresters.
7, ripping the stillness of the night after Christmas with the shrill terror of their sirens. The ranchers, the homeowners, the farmers come awake with a start as they hear them scream by, for they live with the fear of fire in these crisp and dusty hills. At 3:40 a.m., 1 hour after the fire was reported, 23 engine companies, 3 bulldozers, 5 work crews, and 4 patrol units. 170 men are fighting the fire, and the fire is winning. Crackling down the mountainsides, roaring through the canyons, whipped by a 50-mile-an-hour wind, forcing back men and machines, backwards and downwards toward the wide beaches and the sea, which surely must stop it. There was no dawn along the beach the day after Christmas. The swirling black smoke merely became gray, and when the stinging hot wind whipped it thin from time to time, toward the east, a bloody ball hung momentarily at the mountain's rim, where men yesterday had seen the sun. Frank L. Dickover, Jr. had driven his wife and 9-month-old daughter to safety, and now he was returning to his home in Zuma Canyon to do what he could to save them, but he never got there. Smoke, thicker than any beach fog, engulfed his car, blinding him. After the fire had roared by, the highway patrol found the wreck, and nearby Mr. Dickover's charred body. He'd broken his leg when the car went off the road. He didn't have a chance. That first morning, County Fire Chief Keith Klinger set up his command post at the Zuma Fire Station on the Pacific Coast Highway. His command now comprised 430 men, including Navy and Marine personnel, moved in by truck from the CV base at Fort Hueneme in Terminal Island. In the firehouse, where the gleaming engines usually stand, gray ladies of the Red Cross served coffee and sandwiches to smoke-blackened firefighters. In the dormitory, men off the line were treated for eye burn and smoke poisoning. In the kitchen, Bob Singleton set up a press center to accommodate the reporters, radio commentators, and TV newsreelmen.
Battalion 5B to First Assistant Chief. Battalion 5B to First Assistant Chief.
This is Chief Percy. Go ahead.
I think we've saved all the homes in the Zuma Canyon area, but the fires jumped the highway at Broad Beach and taken 2 big houses.
Chief Anderson to Zuma Station.
Go ahead, Harvey.
Ramiro Canyon's getting too hot to hold. Gotta have 10 patrols to work around the houses right away.
Okay, Harvey. Did you hear that, Keith?
Yeah. Ramiro goes, Escondido Canyon will be next.
No doubt about it.
Ask the sheriff's office to evacuate Escondido Canyon right away.
Captain Sewell Griggers of the Sheriff's Aero Squadron has a bullhorn on his helicopter. He uses it to untangle traffic jams. This morning it is used for another purpose, as he flies low and slow up Escondido Canyon.
This is the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office. Escondido Canyon is in fire danger. Persons still in the canyon are ordered to evacuate immediately.
Now the fire was shaping into a disaster. As they had in 2 wars, the mobile canteens of the Salvation Army moved up close to the fire line. At the Webster School on Malibu Canyon Road, the Red Cross set up an evacuation center. And as the refugees poured in on foot, by automobile, and some even on horseback, the stories poured out. There was Mrs. Jean Hasselquist's narrow escape.
We just woke up around 5 o'clock by telephone call from a lovely neighbor, and we looked up and the whole hillside and the mountain range was on fire, and we were quite sure that we weren't going to be in the flames until the last minute when it leaped over the far hillside there, and all of a sudden the whole hill was just in mass of flames, and we just ran for our lives. We just missed the flames by about 10 feet.
By nightfall this first burning day, 900 men and 100 pieces of equipment were fighting a wholly uncontrolled fire. And 30 houses had burned to the ground, leaving nothing, ironically, but their stone chimneys and fireplaces. Among them was the beach house of TV star Ralph Edwards.
Yes, we did have a lot of wonderful mementos in there, things that were very close to our hearts. But the ones I really feel sorry for are those people who lived on their land, who made their living out of the land, and to have their home go up in flames, that indeed was a tragedy.
The second smoky dawn brings no relief as the fire roars on south toward Latigo Canyon. And here among the bright red fire engines is the blue and gray shortwave truck of radio station KNX and CBS News reporter Hugh McCoy.
It looks as if we're trapped, or at least temporarily stymied up here. The road has been blocked off by flames, which just moments ago have leaped across the road up the side of the hill. Below here in the canyon, there's a house and a number of outbuildings, which in just about a moment from now will be reached by those flames. And up here on the hill where the flames had jumped the road, another house, the green house, is threatened. I don't think we can make a stand here much longer. Jim Lowe, our engineer, is about ready to evacuate with the KNX mobile unit. We've got to make our way back down this road. The heat is getting more and more intense, and the flames are swept over more than a half a mile of these mountains now, raging, moving very, very fast. The house I told you about a few moments ago down below here is completely enveloped in smoke and flames. The people, we have just learned, have been evacuated from that home. And up here to my right, another house which is still standing is threatened by these flames reaching 20 to 50 feet up into the air as these wind gusts whip the black pall of smoke. That's all from Latigo Canyon. We've got to make our way out. The engines are evacuating now.
That afternoon along Highway 101, the citizens of Santa Maria and Santa Barbara, of Carpinteria and Oxnard knew something was up as a convoy of 18 civilian defense pumpers from Northern California roared south, red lights flashing, sirens screaming. Something indeed big was up as the engines from the north pulled into the Zuma fire station.
The Malibu Dispatcher in Agoura.
Go ahead.
We have a reported fire in the Hume tract.
Hume tract?
Yes, sir, just north of the sheriff's substation on Pacific Highway. It's traveling very fast. It's already taken several homes.
Thank you. Chief?
Yes, Roland?
Just got a report of a blaze above the sheriff's station.
That's 8 miles east of here. Must be a completely new fire.
It's gotta be.
Order out every available piece of equipment in both the city and county. I'll take these civilian defense engines down there myself.
A new fire, 8 miles away, sweeping down the steep cliffside toward homes thickly clustered above the highway. Homes built high for the magnificent Pacific view. A view now obscured by ugly brown smoke choking out the setting sun, bringing an early night to this California Riviera.
40 Pacific Coast Highway. Mr. Height at this very moment is up on the roof with a hose wetting down his roof for directly across the street. These flames are roaring down the mountainside with a tremendous wind behind them, and the firemen are on top of 2 apartments.
While the others fight the fire house by house. And below, parked on the road, the householders in their cars, watching the smoke and fire blot out their homes, still gaily outlined in Christmas lights, and then pass on, leaving the homes and the lights intact as it roars on, insatiable to the west, toward the first fire, the Zuma fire, now contained, but not controlled. All over Southern California, the thoughts and sympathies of men of goodwill stretched toward the threatened people of the stricken area. And the thoughts and the sympathy and the prayers seemed not to have gone unheard. That night, the winds died down. The roaring red monster of flame flickered to a faltering standstill.
Approximately 1.5 miles northeast of Lake Sherwood, sweeping southwest from Ventura Boulevard on a 3-mile front.
A third fire. By noon, it has swallowed 9 homes on the shore of Lake Sherwood, and pushed by a 35-mile wind, roars on toward the Zuma fire on the other side of the range.
If it joins up with the Zuma burn, we've got it licked. If the winds increase, who knows? Right now, we know one thing. It's out of control.
The sun sank that Friday evening behind the dirty brown cloud of smoke that stretched 50 miles from the San Fernando Valley, across the mountains and over the ocean to Catalina Island. Sank red and angry, leaving behind its afterimage A corona of fire atop the hills. And 2,000 weary men fought through that last long night. There was good news the next afternoon, qualified in the cautious words of a weary fire chief.
We now have the fire tied up in a slippery knot.
The knot held. And so did the Pacific High. As the evacuees returned to their homes, bizarrely colorful islands in the black and gray landscape, they looked up at the hot, cloudless sky and hoped it would stay that way. Now there was no fear of fire, but of flood. When the rains came, and come they must, what would happen to their homes, with no living vegetation in the hills to hold back the waters? Day after day, Forestry Department planes flew over the 26,000 acres of devastated mountains and hillsides, scattering 500,000 pounds of ryegrass seed. And the Pacific High held. And men ask, will the rains, when they come so heavily the seeds will wash away before they sprout? And men began filling sandbags and building dikes around their homes. And finally, the Pacific High weakened and broke, and the rains came. And once more men prayed. It rained as it should have 2 months ago. It rained all day Friday, the 11th of January, all day Saturday, sometimes mercifully. And then, Sunday's dawn burst into a blue sky, lazy with the fleecy clouds that follow a storm. Yes, like a green fuzz across the gray hillsides, the ryegrass had sprouted and pushed its way through the cold ashes like a promise of springtime. There would be food now for the hungry deer in the high hills. There would be tiny roots now holding back the soil against the next drift in Malibu. Because man, who knows so well how to organize for his own destruction, had also learned how to order his own salvation.
Also, he helps to prevent destructive forest fires. And if one does break out, he helps to control it. Yes, Bud, Virginia's farm woodlots are no longer forgotten acres. Today,
fire, a friend to man more often than not, but not now. Now a deadly enemy. Fire was perhaps man's first tool. It cooked his food. Its warmth kept him alive in winter. It shaped his tools for hunting, and later it fueled his industries and built his cities. Civilization could not have happened without fire, controlled fire. But fire out of control, fire in the forest, is man's deadly enemy. It can start dramatically with a sudden stroke of lightning, but it rarely does. Sometimes it's arson, other times a casually discarded match or cigarette, a campfire not fully extinguished. Any one of these catalysts, combined with air for combustion, a large amount of fuel such as dead branches or pine needles, all dry from lack of moisture, can turn the possibility of fire into a blazing, deadly reality. A blazing, deadly reality that at its worst can shoot flames 150 feet into the air. At their hottest centers, tornado-like fire whirls can spew flashes as high as 600 feet. A blazing, deadly reality that, wind-whipped, can travel 30 miles an hour. Set backfires. This hopefully will make the fire in the forest turn cannibal, feed upon itself, and die. the outer edge of the fire, men take advantage of smaller flames and less intense heat to literally confront the fire in hand-to-hand combat. But there are still places where no man can approach the blaze because of the intense heat. Meanwhile, the Morgans can...
Path of the flames are being evacuated, but homes in the Crystal Haven subdivision are engulfed in flames.
And in Canyon City, firemen on the scene for several hours report that the fire is still out of control. While the wildfire still rages in some places, in others, it has done its damage. Where once vacation homes and mountain retreats were filled with sounds of active families, only echoes remain. Where once 100-foot trees sighed in the summer air only yesterday, now all that is left are wisps of smoke, ashes, and charred stumps.
The dumps. And coal or oil in the furnaces.
Extreme. At 8:03 a.m., a condition of high hazard is declared throughout the department. Standby companies are moved up to stations near brush areas to strengthen the circle of protection. But even as they move, trouble strikes. At 8:15, an alert of fire is relayed to the officer in command of mountain firefighting units.
Mountain Patrol and all units concerned. They reported brush fire in the mountain area, 3600 block Stone Canyon.
The division chief responds immediately. Clouds of brush smoke are already visible on the ridge. The chief calls for additional companies. The fire, starting from its point of origin north of Mulholland on Stone Canyon, spreads out along canyon walls in three directions. First arriving units succeed in stopping it on the north, east, and west flanks before it reaches threatened homes. But there is no stopping it on the south. Winds are driving the flames fast and hard toward Mulholland. The chief declares a condition of major emergency. The master plan of defense against a serious brush fire begins. Support from air tankers is requested. 15 additional engine companies roll out. All key personnel are alerted and special mountain firefighting equipment dispatched. Deputy and division chiefs move up to take command of field units. as radio messages crackle in.
The fire is over the top. It's heading straight down Stone Canyon.
Engine 31, 45, 46, and 67 move directly into the fire.
Fire has jumped Mulholland at the crest of the Santa Monicas, headed toward Bel Air. To these men, brush fires are routine, but this one is pushing them hard. The flames take a run along the canyon slopes, heading uphill toward the ridges. Firemen with high-pressure hose streams knock the fire down as it tries to make the jump as it did over Mulholland. But in the canyon between, along the wide sweep of fire front traveling unchecked with the wind, there lies the problem. Rough terrain impedes fire crews in meeting the flames head-on. Fire fans out to sweep up canyon walls, threatening residential areas ahead. Chief Engineer William Miller arrives at Command Post headquarters to take charge of fire operations. A quick size-up of conditions prompts him to order everything available into the fire. Time is vital. Fire is spreading, growing by the minute. Air tankers sweep in. Fire danger is compounded by ground winds, the Santa Ana, driving through at 50 miles an hour to hurl burning brands ahead of the main front. 100, 200, 300 feet ahead, other blazes are starting, spot fires that appear from nowhere. All off-duty firemen are recalled to hold back what may come if the wind plays tricks. And the wind does. Embers blow ahead of the fire to fall on the opposite side of Roscommon. Fire is now west of Stradella, out of Stone Canyon. Fire officers alert the command post to the new outbreak.
On top of Stradella, I can see the fire on the west side of Roscommon. It has jumped at least 500 feet further south. Fire has jumped Roscommon at about Del Miller and Roscommon. It's now out of control.
Responding apparatus is directed in by helicopter. Defense forces are split once again to handle the two additional fronts. As equipment and manpower thin out, fire grows with the wind, and flames begin spreading at the rate of 13 acres per minute. Tactics change from offense to defense. Fire crews are directed to positions between structures and the approaching fire to begin the necessary technique of hit-and-run firefighting. Get ahead of the fire. Take a stand. Knock it down. Move ahead again. Always stay ahead of the fire. Firemen, almost in the dark, fight to keep flames confined to single homes. But now fire is below them, sweeping south, coming up on both sides of the ridges they stand on, going overhead with the wind, jumping ahead of the men. The firemen are no longer ahead of the fire. Field commanders request more and more help as the flames spread.
Unless we have companies that can lay into these individual houses, we are going to begin losing more houses on Roscommon.
It has already jumped Brenda Flora going toward Sepulveda.
There's houses going on both sides of the street in the 1700 block Roscommon. There are about 15 houses involved at the corner of Anzio Road and Roscommon.
We're dispatching everything we have.
But everything is not enough. Badly needed help has come from county firefighting units. 22 of their engine companies and patrol rigs are at the fire. 10 more are on the way. CAT operators work directly ahead of the flames to stop their advance. 23 surrounding municipalities roll out to fill vacated Los Angeles stations to cover for city companies that have moved into the fire. Fire officials decide where residents may remain, where they may not. Decisions are based on the prime consideration in any fire, safety to human life. Ahead of the fire, police officers are hard-pressed to control the evacuation of residents. While they work, radios blare out messages of trouble.
In Gator Canyon, we need police assistance here to evacuate these people. We are going to lose some civilians if we don't get them out of here. There's a lady here having difficulty breathing. She's been sick and trapped in this fire.
We have a school bus trapped 2425 Roscommare Road. The children are out. The driver and the bus are trapped.
We've got a report of 4 people trapped on foot between Chelan and Roscommare. We need help from the police department.
Send an ambulance to 2025 Stradella Road. An injured fireman.
850 Linda, Florida. The house is on fire and there's a lady trapped.
Congestion blocks fire trucks. Everyone must use the same narrow streets. No crossroads connect the steep canyons. Where fire easily jumps the ridges, firefighters must drive miles to go around them. Sightseers add to the problems. Police are forced to arrest many who move in to get a ringside view of disaster. And disaster it is. In the canyons, along the hillsides, on the ridges, houses are burning. Smoke blacks out the sun. Firemen work in close as firebrands blow against the sides of houses, drive into crevices of wooden roofs, through windows, into ventilators, and bunch under the eaves of houses in glowing masses, held there by hot blasts of fire wind. Wind that bends high-pressure hose streams into worthless spray. Wind that whips roof fires into billows of stubborn flame. Where the men have water to fight with, they're holding their own. And then, without warning, some don't have water. First the pressure, then the water itself recedes from ridges. Fire companies are backed off by waves of flame. Along Stradella first, then Roscommare, then Linda, Flora. The situation becomes one of scattered running battles as fire crews pick individual targets. Water is drafted from swimming pools wherever possible. But where water is limited to that in apparatus tanks, homes that are furiously burning must be passed by. Of the hundreds of others threatened or just starting to burn, a difficult choice must be made. Which to fight, which to forfeit. Houses with combustible roofs and those too close to brush are poor risks. Once extinguished, they catch fire again and again. Nevertheless, the firemen try. Air tankers come in low and often, despite collision hazard and the smoke. Only a limited number may operate. Even their biggest loads will not affect the huge central fires. They do their best work in conjunction with ground crews on the flanks to prevent fire spread. More equipment is moved in as fire sweeps south on a solid front at incredible speed. Every burning thing that can be torn loose by the wind is hurled ahead in this horizontal, leapfrogging, wind-driven advance. Burning brands rain down in clouds as fire leaps from wood roof to wood roof. Spot fires appear everywhere, spread, fuse together to feed the parent blaze. A blaze which is no longer just a major brush fire, just a group of burning buildings. It is now a full-scale conflagration. On the move, headed for the thickly populated areas of every residential section north and south of Sunset Boulevard. There is one chance. Every piece of firefighting equipment not actively involved in saving structures is being ordered to the area north of Sunset to head off the flames. Homes by the score disintegrate into white-hot embers carried high into the atmosphere by thermal columns of heat. Firestorms boil upward along residential stretches of Linda, Flora, Chelan Road, Stradella, Samara, Chantilly. There is no clearly defined fire front. It's as if an enemy force had suddenly launched a paratroop attack behind the lines of defense. Sector chiefs attempt to maintain order where sectors no longer exist. Flames loom up in scores of homes on scores of streets. Firemen fight in smoke-imposed darkness throughout the fire areas. Some have no water, others have. In their concentration on the jobs at hand, none can know that 4 new crises are taking form. 6 miles northwest in a remote area of Santa Ynez Canyon, a second major brush fire has broken loose, destroyed 9 homes, and is racing toward the main fire to eventually blacken 10,000 acres. Companies are pulled from Upper Stone Canyon to help county units fight the new blaze. In Benedict Canyon, 1/2 mile east, another brush fire is deliberately set. As ground crews respond, an air tanker is directed in ahead of their arrival to delay the fire's progress. And in Brentwood, a third crisis. 1.5 miles west of furiously burning Bel Air, a completely unexpected phenomenon takes place. Thousands of firebrands are literally dumped from the skies on this heretofore untouched section. In residential areas and hills above, the embers spread. From 60 to 70 fires suddenly blaze up, as if an aerial incendiary attack had been launched. Vitally needed equipment must be pulled from critical areas and diverted to this new front. At the same time, a fourth emergency hits. Clouds of sparks soar high over the new 600-foot San Diego freeway complex to envelop ridges of West Sepulveda Canyon. As fire in the space of a few minutes leaps the largest man-made firebreak in the city. Controlling this host of new fires seems hopeless. Everything possible is being thrown into the path of a conflagration that will not stop. The county, civil defense, and neighboring municipalities are taxing their own fire defense to the utmost in this fight against time and a 20-mile perimeter of sweeping flame. Men do not know where the fire stops or where it begins, or how far it will go, or how much longer. Moraga, Cantor Canyon, Bundy, Taggart-Tail. Too many streets, too many homes, too many fires for only 3,000 men to fight. And to these men, the whole thing seems unreal. This is the heat that will not cool, water that will not quench, wind that will not stop. This is a fire that simply will not be whipped. And then in late afternoon, they get their first break. The Santa Ana diminishes. The racing fire slows to a run. And those still left in the burn area get a look at the path it has traveled. But there is no time for contemplation. Fire is still burning heavily on the south and west flanks, still moving. In the early evening, the wind changes, grows stronger, swings the fire west, then northwest. In its path lies the long, deep richness of Mandeville Canyon, one of the most heavily populated, most exclusive, most hazardous canyons in the Santa Monica Range. As darkness moves in, apparatus is safely withdrawn from the burn, manned by tired crews and shuttled into the mouth of Mandeville. Firemen stand by their lines as they watch a sky full of smoke turn red from embers and reflected flames. Fire once again is on the rampage. Like devils running before the wind, flames begin their climb to the top to crest over the ridge, shoot skyward, and start down into Mandeville on a direct run for the homes below. And the fight begins. Firemen battle to keep their positions between homes in the first waves of fire as flames boil overhead to sweep the West Canyon wall. Within minutes, the canyon is smothered in a maelstrom of smoke, cinders, and fire. And below, as more equipment moves in, firefighters again take beatings in their stand between homes and fire. Paint blisters, hose lines char, fire coats are scorched and endurance tested, but the lines hold, and the men hold, and the homes still stand after flames have blackened the canyon walls. As the fire swings northward in a dying night wind, a great concentration of ground forces moves against its line of advance. And the city's most disastrous fire is finally beaten down to slow, smoldering containment. On November 7th, the morning sun reveals the ruins of what yesterday were homes and trees and irreplaceable possessions. Now fireplaces stand as tombstones over row upon row of dead homes on dead streets. 484 times, fire proved its deadly efficiency by incinerating, in a few roaring minutes, what families had taken years to acquire. 6,090 acres of blackened hills, canyons, and neighborhoods. Over 3,000 men, 240 fire vehicles, and 16 aircraft tried to stop it. Did stop it, but only after a hard driving Santa Ana died down and gave them a chance. They broke the fire's back in 12 hours, saved over 2,200 homes, a major college. Not one single life was lost. Not one critical burn case reported. Firemen had set a new record according to national fire experts. But still people wonder. Fire victims, as well as those who merely read about the fire, ask the same question.
How can a brush fire get so far out of control within a well-protected city and do the things it does?
Let's analyze this fire and see what did happen. Some phases are difficult to explain. Why is a framework of bare wood left unharmed in a furnace of heat that crumbles masonry around it? Why does a roaring fire suddenly stop in heavy brush as if cut by a knife? Why do flames spare one house and consume identical dwellings on all sides? A general pattern of fire behavior, however, can be explained. When a brush fire is traveling downhill, it is most receptive to extinguishment. A wide clearance around a house gives firemen a break to make a stop, provided water is available, provided winds do not start spot fires across the canyon, and combustible roofs do not ignite from falling embers. The fire preheats canyons to ignition temperatures. As flames move uphill, the reaction can be almost explosive. A parallel to this reaction is demonstrated with a branch from a specimen of hillside brush. Held upright with fire moving downward, the fire travels slowly. But reverse the situation. Place the fuel above the fire. On a hill fire, burning brands carry over the top to start spot fires on the opposite side. Where those spot fires merge with the original blaze, you'll see fire that leaves only chimneys and brickwork. And no amount of wetting down can stop it. Now let's take another look at fire in action. Brush fires create their own wind. Turbulence and heat bring winds of tornado velocity. Erratic, twisting, treacherous, and unpredictable. Even seasoned news cameramen can be trapped. Where these fire drafts are further compounded by the Santa Ana, results can be disastrous. On the morning of November 6th, Santa Ana winds were moving in a southwesterly direction from desert to coast. At the same time, numerous ridges of the Santa Monica's were channeling ground winds almost due south. So it was that winds were traveling in two directions at the time of the fire. When the fire reached Bel Air and consumed homes in such numbers that firestorms resulted, thermal heat lifted burning shingles and brands 2,000 to 3,000 feet in the air. Caught in the upper-level wind currents, these burning brands were carried well over a mile across Sepulveda to rain down onto the Brentwood area. Scores of spot fires began spreading to present a new crisis. This action is demonstrated in these pictures taken by UCLA's Meteorological Department. Now the same picture increased to many times its original speed. Deep within the smoke, burning shingles carry 1.5 miles to start new fires, as shown by black smoke columns, which grow to join the main fire, approaching from the east. This leapfrog phenomenon, coupled with powerful ground winds, created a unique fire problem. As one of the nation's foremost conflagration experts puts it,
no one has ever faced this problem before. No definite line of defense could be found, and when a chain reaction of this type occurs, a fire department can do nothing more than pick out individual houses and try to save them.
But even in such attempts to save individual homes, firemen are further thwarted by the loss of water. How can a modern water system properly designed to meet emergency fire conditions fail to function? Let's look at this simplified diagram of houses on a hill being supplied by a water tank above. When thousands of outlets are opened below the hill, water pressure is lost in the overtaxed main, regardless of the amount of water above the houses. Where the water supply comes from a distant location and supply pipes dead end on the hill, unnecessary use of too many outlets below the fire area simply drains the water out of the upper system. We have considered water, wind, and weather. Now there's the very real problem of how a house is constructed and where. Suppose we live in a house above the congestion of the neighborhood below, or in a stilt house built over the brush, or in a typical home with a combustible roof, wide, low eaves to catch sparks and fire, and a big picture window to let the fire inside. Under any such conditions, there's not much of a chance. In 1959, experts from the National Fire Protection Association surveyed portions of Los Angeles. They found a mountain range within the city, combustible roofed houses closely spaced in brush-covered canyons and ridges, serviced by narrow roads. They called it a design for disaster. They predicted the Bel Air fire, plus others which are sure to come, unless citizens and city officials work together on a definite plan of fire defense. The prediction was nothing new to firemen. They have their own ideas about people who don't like water pumping stations or fire stations in their neighborhood because they feel that they're unsightly. Or homeowners who refuse to cut brush away from homes because it mars the natural beauty of the hills. And those groups who maintain to the last glowing ember that combustible roofs are not hazardous in fire areas, despite the fact that over 600 cities have outlawed them. Firefighters are thankful that such is not the thinking of the majority of citizens. But it does not take a majority to start a fire or to feed a conflagration that burns out the careful along with the careless. You are only as safe as your neighbor. When you live in a hazardous area, you're gambling that fire won't start from hot ashes, a cigarette, children with matches, a faulty chimney, auto accidents, a firebug, fallen wires, or lightning. These are the odds. If you win, you get to keep what you already have. If you lose, fire, the winner, takes all.
Raging through the mountains near Los Angeles, forest fires were threatening heavily populated areas before a shift in the wind. The change came too late, however, to save the ranch of Gene Autry and thousands of items he had collected for a museum of old Western relics. Little of his elaborate movie equipment was saved. There were 6 fires burning simultaneously, and they were threatening to merge before the wind shifted and pushed back the blazes. Before the conflagrations began to die, 45 structures were destroyed, including the Olive View Sanitarium, and 45,000 acres of forest were burned out. Nearly 700 patients were evacuated from the sanitarium without injury, a dramatic tribute to both doctors and nurses. California again suffers a disastrous series of forest fires.